Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into a case that's both fascinating and disturbing.
Okay.
It's the double homicide of an elderly couple,
Oh, wow.
Chip and Claudia,
Okay.
and the chilling confession of their 15-year-old killer, Daniel Marsh.
Wow.
You've provided us with a range of sources for this dive court testimony, investigative interviews, even news coverage.
And within those sources, I think, lies a puzzle.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about understanding what happened,
Right.
but also like delving into the why,
Yeah.
especially with the perpetrator as young as Marsh.
Right, because the brutality of this case is undeniable.
Yeah.
Chip and Claudia were found with over 128 stab wounds.
But, it's the details beyond the sheer violence
Yeah.
that are particularly intriguing.
Like what?
So the placement of a phone inside Claudia's stomach
What?
and a cup inside Chip's hips.
Really?
These acts seem deliberate, almost ritualistic. They hint at something more than just a frenzied attack.
And then he also tried to cover his tracks.
Right.
Marsh even duct taped his shoes to avoid leaving footprints.
Wow.
For a 15-year-old
Yeah.
to have that kind of forensic awareness.
Right.
It's unusual, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It suggests a pre-existing fascination with crime scenes, investigations, perhaps even a desire to outsmart the authorities.
Interesting.
It's this awareness that makes his confession all the more perplexing.
How so?
Well, because in his confession, he doesn't just admit to the murders.
Right.
He describes them in a very matter-of-fact way.
Yeah, he even goes so far as to say he felt pure happiness and adrenaline and dopamine
That's right.
from the murders.
Yeah, and he describes it as the most exhilarating, enjoyable feeling.
Wow.
This lack of empathy, this thrill he derives from violence,
Yeah.
could suggest a psychopathic tendency. However,
Yeah.
his willingness to confess, and with such detail, complicates the picture.
So how do we reconcile those seemingly contradictory elements, meticulous planning, and a thrill-seeking confession? Could there be more at play here?
What's fascinating is how this might point to a disturbing level of self-awareness.
Okay.
Imagine even at 15,
Yeah.
being both aware of the horrific nature of your actions
Yeah.
and still deriving pleasure from them.
Yeah.
This duality is something we need to unpack as we go deeper into his past.
And his past is where it gets even more unsettling.
Yeah.
Marsh's violent fantasies didn't begin with Chip and Claudia.
I know.
He confessed to having these thoughts since he was 10 years old,
Wow.
starting with his mother's ex-partner.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Okay.
a pattern emerges.
Mm-hmm.
His early fantasies focused on someone he felt had wronged his family,
Okay.
but they later escalated
Mm-hmm.
to thoughts of mass murder at his school.
High school.
Yeah, this progression is significant.
Okay.
It shows a shift from targeted revenge to something far more indiscriminate and chilling.
So this raises a crucial ethical dilemma.
What's that?
If someone had recognized these warning signs, could the murders of Chip and Claudia have been prevented?
Right.
Could intervention have changed his trajectory?
That question haunts many cases like this.
Yeah.
While we can't say for certain,
Sure.
Marsh's escalating fantasies highlight the critical importance of early intervention and mental health support in addressing potentially dangerous behavior.
Right.
But how do we identify those who will act on such thoughts? That remains one of the biggest challenges in this field.
And as we navigate this complex terrain of Marsh's psyche,
Yeah,
we can't forget the victims in this story.
of course.
The trial must have been agonizing for Chip and Claudia's family, having to relive the horror of their loss in such a public way.
Imagine being Sarah,
Yeah.
their granddaughter,
Mm-hmm.
facing not just the grief, but the constant fear of Marsh's potential release,
Right.
knowing the legal system could fail you.
Yeah. This already agonizing trial took a darker turn
Oh.
when Marsh's defense team attempted to claim insanity.
Well, the jury ultimately rejected that defense.
Right.
It must have added another layer of pain and frustration for the family,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
prolonging their quest for justice.
And it's a stark reminder
Yeah.
that while the legal system seeks to determine guilt and innocence,
Right.
it can't always offer the emotional resolution that victims' families desperately crave.
You're right about that.
And in Marsh's case, the legal battles were far from over.
Oh, really?
Next time, we'll delve into the legal complexities surrounding Marsh's age at the time of the crime and how shifting legislation could have impacted his sentence.
Interesting.
It's a twist that directly involves you, the listener,
Oh.
because the outcome of this case could very well hinge on how these laws are interpreted in the future.
Wow, I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah, so join us next time for part 2 of our deep dive into this fascinating and disturbing case.
I'll be here.
Last time we uncovered some really disturbing patterns in Marsh's behavior, his
Yeah.
meticulous planning, that thrill-seeking confession,
Uh,
and the way his violent fantasies sort of escalated. But this case gets even more complex
Yeah.
when we factor in his age at the time of the murders.
You're right. Marsh was only 15 when he killed Chip and Claudia.
15.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which thrust his case into the often contentious debate surrounding juvenile justice.
Oh, yeah.
And California's legal landscape at the time
Right.
added yet another layer of complexity.
Because it wasn't just about determining his guilt.
Right.
It was about deciding whether he should be tried as an adult.
Exactly.
That's where Proposition 57 comes in.
Exactly. Proposition 57 shifted the decision of whether to try a juvenile offender in adult court from the district attorney to a judge.
Oh, so.
Essentially gave judges more discretion
Oh.
in determining whether a young offender should face the full weight of the adult legal system.
So for Marsh, this meant the possibility of a shorter sentence.
Right?
Chance to be released much earlier than if he'd been tried and convicted as an adult from the outset.
Exactly.
It's understandable why this prospect would be terrifying for the victims' families.
Absolutely. For Sarah, Chip, and Claudia's granddaughter,
Yeah.
this wasn't just an abstract legal debate.
Right.
It was a fight to keep her grandparents' killer behind bars.
Wow.
She became a powerful advocate, organizing petitions, rallying other families affected by similar legislation, even holding press conferences to raise awareness about the potential impact of Proposition 57.
Her efforts are a testament to the strength and resilience of those impacted by violent crime.
Absolutely.
They often become the unsung heroes in these stories, pushing for justice and accountability long after the headlines fade.
But the legal landscape shifted again
Oh.
with the introduction of Senate Bill 1391.
Okay.
This new law prohibited juveniles under the age of 16 from being tried as adults, period.
So what does that mean for Marsh?
Well, this development adds a crucial layer of context for you, the listener,
Okay.
because it means that Marsh's case could potentially be reviewed under this new legislation.
That's a significant twist because Marsh was only 15 when he committed the murders. If SB 1391 were applied retroactively,
Yeah.
he wouldn't even need a fitness hearing. He'd be automatically released at the age of 25.
Precisely. That's why Sarah's advocacy became even more urgent.
Right.
She understood that SB 1391 could completely overturn the progress she had made in keeping Marsh incarcerated.
Did she succeed?
Well, despite her best efforts,
Oh, no.
the governor signed SB 1391 into law.
It must have felt like a devastating blow.
It was a major setback, but Sarah didn't give up.
Good for her.
Remember, Marsh still had a fitness hearing under Proposition 57,
Right?
and the judge ultimately ruled that he should remain in the adult system.
So he's still in prison.
This ruling, at least for now,
Okay.
keeps him incarcerated.
But this isn't a permanent victory, is it?
No, Marsh's case is still under appeal,
Uh-oh.
and that lingering possibility of release,
Right.
especially with the introduction of SB 1391,
Yeah.
casts a long shadow over the victims' families.
Of course.
The trauma of their loss is compounded by this constant uncertainty, the fear that the legal system could ultimately fail them.
It's like a wound that never fully heals,
Yeah.
constantly being reopened by legal proceedings and the potential for Marsh's release.
And that's before we even consider the psychological impact of Marsh's actions.
Huh?
Remember that detail about the phone in the cup?
Oh, yeah.
It's not just a morbid curiosity.
Right.
It's a clue, potentially, to a deeper psychological disturbance.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine any rational explanation for those acts.
Yes.
He claimed it was to confuse investigators,
Yeah.
but it feels like there's something more to it,
Right.
something darker and more symbolic.
This detail underscores a crucial aspect of criminal profiling. Sometimes the seemingly random acts are the most revealing.
I see.
Placing those objects inside the victims' bodies wasn't just about disrupting the investigation.
What else could it have been?
It was about control, about asserting dominance even in death.
Oh.
It's almost as if he wanted to rewrite the narrative of their lives, to leave his own twisted mark on their final moments.
It's a chilling thought, and it speaks to a level of psychological complexity that we rarely see in someone so young.
Right.
This wasn't just about taking lives.
No.
It was about desecrating them, about imposing his own macabre vision on the victims.
And remember, He expressed exhilaration during the murders,
Yeah.
describing it as the most enjoyable feeling he'd ever experienced.
Yeah.
That chilling detachment,
Right.
coupled with his calculated planning and symbolic acts,
Right.
paints a very disturbing psychological portrait.
But then we have the added layer of his TEDx talk from prison.
Right.
He claimed remorse, talked about rehabilitation, even spoke about the importance of embracing humanity.
It's hard to reconcile that message with the brutality of his crimes. Right.
Yeah, it's almost like he's trying to control the narrative again to shape how people perceive him.
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But let's shift our focus for a moment. We've talked extensively about Marsh.
Yeah.
But what about the unseen heroes in this story?
Like who?
The investigators who had to face the gruesome reality of the crime scene,
Right.
analyze the evidence,
Yeah.
and delve into the mind of a killer.
Yeah, it's easy to forget the emotional toll that investigations like this take on law enforcement professionals.
Yeah, right.
They're exposed to trauma on a regular basis,
Yeah.
forced to confront the darkest aspects of human behavior.
Their dedication often goes unacknowledged.
True.
But their work is essential in bringing justice to the victims and protecting the community.
Right.
Imagine sifting through those gruesome details,
Yeah.
trying to make sense of the chaos,
Uh-huh.
all while carrying the weight of knowing that a 15-year-old was capable of such brutality.
This aspect forces us to confront the reality that darkness can lurk anywhere,
Yeah.
even in seemingly peaceful communities.
Right.
This case didn't just impact the victims and their families, it
Yeah.
shook the very foundations of their town,
Huh.
leaving a sense of fear and vulnerability in its wake.
And that's where the importance of community comes in
So?
the face of tragedy.
Yeah.
That collective support,
Mm-hmm.
that sense of shared resilience
Yeah.
becomes crucial in healing and rebuilding trust.
It's a reminder that even amidst darkness, there are glimmers of hope, of human connection and compassion.
Absolutely. And as we move into the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we'll explore the ongoing legal battles,
Uh-huh.
the lingering questions surrounding Marsh's potential release,
Okay.
and the broader implications of this case for the future of juvenile justice.
So we've spent the last two parts really unpacking this horrific case,
Yeah.
the brutality of these murders,
Right.
that chilling psychology of Daniel Marsh,
Uh-huh.
and that relentless fight for justice by Chip and Claudia's family.
It's a tough one.
But as you know, the story doesn't end there.
It doesn't.
Those legal battles surrounding Marsh's case,
Right.
they're far from over.
Yeah.
And that possibility of his early release remains a real source of anxiety
Yeah,
and uncertainty for everyone involved.
for sure.
And that uncertainty is further complicated by that ongoing debate
Right.
surrounding juvenile justice reform.
Yeah.
We've talked about Proposition 57
Yeah.
and Senate Bill 1391,
Right.
both of which could potentially impact Marsh's sentence.
Yeah.
But what do these laws actually mean
Right.
for the future of how we deal with young offenders,
Yeah.
especially those who commit serious crimes?
That's the core question, isn't it?
Yeah.
These laws reflect a growing recognition
Okay.
that the traditional tough-on-crime approach may not be effective,
Uh-huh.
especially when dealing with juveniles
Right.
whose brains are still developing.
Yeah.
There's increasing emphasis on rehabilitation,
Okay.
on the potential for young offenders to change
Yeah.
and reintegrate into society.
But how do we balance that potential for rehabilitation
Right.
with the need for accountability and justice?
Yeah.
Especially in a case as horrific as this one. It's a delicate balancing act. Yeah. And there's no easy answer.
Right.
Cases like Marsh's force us to confront those uncomfortable questions.
Like what?
What does justice truly mean?
Yeah.
Is it about punishment, about retribution,
Right.
or is it about finding a way to heal and move forward as a society?
And then complicating this debate even further
Yeah.
is Marsh's TEDx talk from prison.
Right.
He claimed to be rehabilitated,
Uh-huh.
expressed remorse, and even spoke about the importance of embracing humanity.
Yeah.
Some might see this as a genuine attempt at atonement,
Yeah.
while others might view it as a calculated manipulation
Right.
to improve his chances of release.
You're right. It's a controversial move
Yeah.
that raises even more questions about the nature of redemption.
Like what?
Can someone who has committed such brutal acts truly change?
Right.
Can we ever truly know what's going on in someone's mind?
Yeah.
Especially when there's a potential benefit to be gained.
This is where I think our deep dive goes beyond just analyzing the facts of the case. I agree.
and forces us to confront the limits of our own understanding.
Right.
How do we as a society
Yeah.
decide when forgiveness is possible,
Uh,
when rehabilitation is genuine?
it's a question that philosophers and theologians have grappled with for centuries.
Yeah,
And there's no easy answer.
right.
But what this case highlights
Yeah.
is the need for nuance, for understanding the complexities of human behavior,
Right.
and for recognizing that there are often more shades of gray than black and white.
And perhaps that's the most important takeaway for you, the listener.
Absolutely.
As you continue to follow this case, as
Right.
you hear about legal challenges and
Yeah.
potential developments,
Right.
just remember that there's more to the story than just the headlines.
Right.
There are those enduring scars of trauma
Yeah.
on the victims' families, those complex and often imperfect workings of our justice system,
Yeah.
and that ongoing debate about how we as a society respond to acts of violence, especially those committed by young people.
Yeah. We encourage you to delve deeper,
Yeah.
to consider the multiple perspectives at play, and to form your own conclusions about the complexities of this case
Right.
and its implications for the future.
Remember, these deep dives are designed to spark curiosity,
Yeah.
to encourage critical thinking,
Uh-huh.
and to leave you with more questions than answers.
Right.
The quest for knowledge is an ongoing process.
Absolutely.
And we hope this journey has inspired you to continue exploring the complexities of the world around us.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep.